Thanks for tuning in to another installment of Advanced TV Herstory, a podcast that analyzes shows and celebrates women of television. Thousands of comedies, variety shows, and dramas have aired, yet the presence of strong women, both in front of and behind the camera, is often a story untold. Well, Advanced TV Herstory begs to differ. There's so much more, and it's worth telling and retelling. Sometimes shows offer great leadership lessons, or are so timeless in their writing that people say the series has aged well. We'll explore those shows further. We'll revisit moments in TV where women broke records, exceeded expectations, or put their careers on the line. Advanced TV Herstory will connect the treasures of the past to the great potential of today's TV and online platforms, and how it all plays a part in being a woman in America today. Tomorrow's success is rooted in understanding what has come before us. So gear up for a little storytelling and fun, sociology, fashion, economics, or strategy. It's all here in Advanced TV Herstory. I'm your host, Cynthia Bemis Abrams. Welcome back, loyal listeners. You're in for a treat today. The subject matter before us is indeed a hybrid of sociology, history, pop culture, leadership, and even science. It's an event developed for television, yet was hardly viewed by anyone worldwide when it aired in 1983, and has sat in the film can until 2012, when it was released on DVD. Most importantly, this is TV Herstory. So it doesn't matter if you are alive or old enough to watch the news or had the paid subscription to Showtime when it first set out to compete with HBO. Listen up. And if you already have an opinion of Diana Ross, whose brilliant career in show business has exceeded 50 years, suspend it for the length of this podcast, please. I want to talk to you about one event, one woman, one team of technical personnel, and the miracle that 800,000 concertgoers filed into and out of New York's Central Park, largely without incident. And that egress part? It was in the dark and pouring rain. Oh, and there was a second miracle. It just happened to be captured on film. Diana Ross's concert in Central Park took place on July 21st, 1983, and again on July 22nd. Torrential rain brought an early end to the first concert. Ross was perhaps at the pinnacle of her solo career. Her start with the Supremes, her work in the movies, and a string of pop hits had kept her in the public eye at this point for roughly 20 years. Talk about reinvention. And with every reinvention, Diana Ross set records, she broke race barriers, she was often the only woman in the room, or for certain, the most powerful woman in the room. I give Diana Ross an incredible amount of credit for drive and determination in her own career. That's why I look to this concert footage, which I encourage you to buy. It's available on DVD from the great people at the Shout Factory for a consummate lesson in professionalism and leadership. How much of a lesson, you ask? I'm not venturing into hyperbole when I make this comparison, and I'm going to give you all the reasons why. In the undergraduate class I taught last year, we discussed at length the famous airplane landing in the Hudson River. You remember it well. It happened about 6 years ago. You remember it because, of course, it was so well documented on TV, and because even in 2009, people's cell phones had video capability. So think back to January 2009, when a calm and collected veteran pilot named Chesley Sullenberger and his crew made an emergency water landing in the Hudson River off Manhattan, New York City. A flock of geese had gotten mangled in the engines upon takeoff, and he had to put it down in the water. That was the safest of all the options available. All of the 155 passengers and crew exited the plane safely, and we watched it. Does this Diana Ross concert performance, done in the rain, compare in terms of risk, execution, and leadership to the safe water landing that Sully made right before our eyes? Absolutely. Okay, so Diana Ross was near the top of her career. She agrees to do a concert in Central Park in 1983. It would be simulcast on Showtime, which was new to the pay cable channel market. It was packaged as a TV concert, so the lighting, sound, and cameras were state-of-the-art. Given the choreography of her patter, Diana and her orchestra must have recently concluded a tour. Let's understand just how significant this concert was. It was a free concert, performed as a fundraiser for the Parks Improvement Campaign. Held in the middle of a steamy July in 1983, a little more than 3.5 years after the sold-out concert for The Who was held at Riverfront Stadium in Cincinnati. Now, that was the concert that resulted in the deaths of 11 attendees. The cause? Stampeding concert-goers who were scrambling to grab one of the 14,000 unassigned general admission seats. That was big news, and it had a significant effect on the entertainment industry. So if you want to know why so few concerts today are general admission, the answer is, quite simply, The Who, 1979. Steve Binder, who directed the performance for the Diana Ross 1983 concert in Central Park, provides a commentary on the DVD, and I can tell you, I love those bonus features. His insight extends not just from his role as director of this concert, but his own then 20-year business relationship with Diana Ross. Here he shares his memory of concerns about the size and potential behavior of the crowd.
Now, we were told in the pre-planning that with the Simon & Garfunkel, with the Barbra Streisand and any other concerts they've had there, maybe there is a possibility that we could have as many as 500,000 people show up. Nobody anticipated over 1 million people, which is actually what we had over the 2 days. I think it was 1,300,000 people. It was a pretty good, accurate guesstimate. But one of the major concerns in pre-production was safety, and they felt that with that many people in the park, there was a real danger of physical harm and possibly some violence or rioting or whatever. And the Park Commission and the Park Police and so forth were incredibly concerned over and over again as we talked about having as many people in the park.
There seems to be a difference in reporting of the actual crowd size. As you heard Binder say, he estimated the 2 days of audience to be nearly 1.3 million. News reports, which happened to be included on the DVD kind of when they packaged the second day of concert, indicated an estimate of 800,000 for the first night. The DVD packaging actually cites, quote, over 400,000. When you watch the video, however, you see that it's truly standing room only on the great lawn of Central Park, which is to say a huge space in a huge park. So, because home movie cameras in the day were either Super 8 or regular 8mm, or there were the big VHS units that required battery packs slung from your shoulder, and all of it was very expensive, it's unlikely that much footage was shot from the crowd, as you might expect today. Binder talks about the importance, then, of Shout Factory bringing the concert to DVD.
Did not have that big an audience who paid money to see this concert, and it is not aired other than that one time live on 2 days in July. It is not aired, and here we are in 2012, and finally, the rest of America for sure and the world is going to be able to see it literally for the first time. They've only heard about this concert. They've seen some very poor pieces of the concert, inferior audio, inferior video. But here we're about to, and are able now to see pristine quality audio and video of what I consider one of the greatest concerts in the history of music.
I arrived at this podcasting endeavor via a career in public relations. It's included crisis communications, messaging, event management, executive handholding, and strategizing at every turn. This is a piece of history that shows us how to prevent chaos and how important it is to trust a team of professionals, this event. In a few minutes, we'll hear how Ross managed the crowd from the stage, keeping them calm while they were assembled, and directing them with exit information when it was appropriate. As much as audio tells the story, it really is a video moment, and it's a great gift for any Ross fan or event coordinator in your life. The video shows the luck and the character that presses on in order to entertain the crowd that turned out to see Miss Ross. With such a long tenure with Ross, Binder commented some on a piece of video that shows a close-up of the performer. Soaked to the bone due to 20 minutes or so of driving rain, Ross bridges her list of hits with audience chatter. As that is playing, Binder offers his 2 cents.
Being able to be on a close-up of an artist and being able to see them and almost read their minds. And I'm watching Diana in this particular case, and she, while she's performing, is thinking of, what am I going to say to this audience? I mean, the weather's getting horrific right now. You know, I think she says in it, which you'll see soon, I've never sung in the rain before, which she never did. But she also is totally concerned with the audience's safety.
Give me the other microphone, please.
She's switching microphones right now because of the danger of she's got a wired microphone, and that also is, artists have been electrocuted with these type of microphones in the past in a studio situation or a arena situation. But she wanted to go to a wireless microphone, and the staff quickly switched. There it is in her left hand right now, and she's going to give away the hard line microphone.
So to be clear, Binder was the director. He only saw a certain aspect of the actual execution, although he was very knowledgeable about a lot of the details leading up to it. And of course, we also have to remember that it was an event that took place now 30 years ago plus. But he admits that everything we see on the video he saw from the control truck. So my read on what Ross was thinking and what she was looking at in the audience is a bit more built out. First, she'd been performing live for more than 20 years. That means her capacity to read an audience and to work an audience was almost unmatched. The audience before her is very diverse. You see that from all the video. And there is a strong police presence. Before the rain started, she in fact thanks and flirts with the police, as she calls them my guys in blue. Later, as the rain starts, she asks them not to get too rough with members of the audience, that she's confident that everybody can behave themselves. And I'm guessing, though, that there were a few key uniforms on both sides of the stage whom she monitored and gave signals to. She was likely watching the scaffolding that framed the remaining spotlights. Was it swaying in the wind? Was she looking at the skies and watching for lightning? Who knows? The cordless microphone, which Binder mentions, is just that, a handheld wireless microphone. She did not have an earpiece at all to communicate with anyone off stage. Twice, her wardrobe person assisted her on stage, and twice, a soaking wet Barry Diller, who is a gentleman who has since gone on to lead major motion picture studios and TV networks, he came out to relay information from police. So how did she do it? How did they do it? How did she remain calm and keep her crowd of 800,000 people under control? Well, first, there was her friendly, somewhat campy, somewhat flirty patter, well honed through the years. This clip was from an early number of the set, and it occurred just before the rain.
Say you wanna drop down, see me, love's on your mind, love's on your mind, it's my house, bring it down, Jane. You know, when I'm good, I'm good. And when I'm bad, I'm better. You know what Mae West used to say? You know what Mae West used to say? Mae West used to say, they used to call me Snow White, but I drifted. And somebody said, my goodness, look at those diamonds. She said goodness had nothing to do with it. much of a good thing can be wonderful. Hey, is that a pistol in your pocket, or are you just glad to see me?
No one could accuse this audience of being filled with fair weather fans. In fact, her audience loved it when she played with them. She liked the patter. It was a tested way for them to connect. And so when you relate to an audience or to your followers, it's an art form, and it requires people skills that aren't necessarily provided with our professional training. In fact, they have to come through time, through being able to read what others want from you and what they need in order for the experience to be best. She was and is a consummate public relations expert. And so the same skills that guided Diana Ross to maintain a gentle hold on the audience led her to realize, this is PR after all, that with each minute of deluge, the world was watching, and you just can't pay for this kind of publicity, as long as it's not screwed up. And it did sort of suck that it took 30 years for it to actually be available for people to watch. But here's Binder's take on the historical moment.
Because of what you're watching and the enormous thunderstorm that hit Central Park in that particular concert, that particular day, it made it a news story that was picked up around the world. And if ever you wanted to understand the definition of charisma or superstar or whatever, Diana Ross stands with a very few others in that category, and she proved her mettle on this particular day. It was just great to sit in that chair and say, hey, I'm a part of this. I'm watching history being made in front of our eyes.
So remember, this was a telecast that included technology in the sky, satellites and such, that was promised to subscribers around the world. Who was calling shots on the ground, literally, in Central Park? What was the network saying? And in hindsight, the contingency plan, which Binder spells out, seems so lame it's no wonder that those on the ground pressed on.
Before we began to actually shoot the show, that there is a possibility of rain. And if there is, we have put together a whole set of Diana Ross videos of her records that we can use as standby in case of an emergency. There was no way anybody could postpone the happening of this concert. It was going live satellite, and no editing, no chance to change anything. What you see is what you were going to get. You know, we had all these videos, I guess an hour's worth or enough to fill up the satellite time. And the minute the rain came down, sure enough, an executive whispered in my ear, we better go to the standby material. And I looked at him and smiled, and I said, we're going to stay out there on the stage with Diana until she leaves the stage. Whether it's 2 minutes from now or 10 hours from now, we're not leaving her.
Let's tally up all the risk involved. Electricity, concentrated most intensively around the stage. Rain, creating puddles of water that appeared instantly. Because the skies got so dark so quickly, much of the audience was in darkness. Central Park is intentionally only lit along the walkways to begin with, and who knows what it was like in 1983. But the skies got dark very quickly early on that summer evening. But that lighting, that was probably one of the things that they'd hoped to buy more of with the proceeds from this concert. So electricity, water, darkness, thunder, and a crowd just short of 1 million people who were being held together by one woman. Where were the lawyers? When you think about it now in our 2015 mindset, here is the first time Ross provides direction to the crowd, done during a song she has sung so many times that she was able to sing and quarterback all at the same time.
If anybody wants to leave, I want you to quietly kind of try to go to your left, my right, and this way. Slowly leave if you want to. I've never sang in the rain before.
So set in her craft after all those years, yes, Diana Ross was able to function, in a sense, on automatic pilot. Or, you might say, guide the whole event manually, because she was able to think and process on her feet. She had sung these songs so many times. And on her feet, 3-inch heels, which she wore the entire time. So yeah, add to the list of real risks Diana wiping out on stage due to a heel gliding across a wet stage. About 10 more minutes later, it's raining even harder. Her bright red sparkly bodysuit is soaked through and through.
Give me a coat or something. Just a coat. Oh. All right. I need your attention up front, ladies and gentlemen up front. All right. I don't need that. Give me a coat. I got a pretty coat, Barry. Something. Okay. Stay calm. If you want to leave, leave slowly. It's only rain. I need a bath anyway. It was too hot. Thank you. I just didn't want you to see through my dress. Okay, play something, Joe. Maniac. Play a ballad. Play Ribbon in the Sky or play something. Play Endless Love. The show will not stop. There's no reason for it to stop. It's only rain.
Calling audibles and ratcheting down the energy for 2 reasons. By shifting to Endless Love, she calmed people down. The musicians were able to accompany her on Endless Love because those required for the song still had functioning microphones. This clip gives you the vibe that there was a lot of improvising going on and a lot of mind reading too. At one point, Diana's costume supervisor, Diana Eden, offers her a plastic clear rain poncho. She declines it.
Tell me what to do. No, that's all right. That's all right. Thank you. I don't want to do. Thank you. I think. All right. The information is, if you'd stay calm with me, and those of you that are leaving, leave slowly. I can't believe it. Oh. We had a beautiful day here.
As much as I feel like I'm spoiling the video for you, believe me, only the DVD tells the full story. Certainly not the skimpy compilation some folks have posted on YouTube. Think of it like riding shotgun on someone's hardest day at work. But you're amazed that through it all, she's still smiling and the crowd that is still hooked up to electricity is on post. With more information relayed from the soaked Barry Diller, otherwise known as Mr. Diane von Furstenberg, if that helps, Ross tells everyone she's calling it for the night, without any assurances from Showtime, which is to say, the gang that largely bankrolled this thing. The Central Park people, who are also kind of important of, can you come back to the park tomorrow? Or her technical people, she puts forth the notion to the audience that maybe they will be able to perform the concert tomorrow. At that moment, in telling the audience to calmly proceed to the exits, she has held out as long as she could. Up until the rain began, the show had been tightly scripted and the camera direction a masterful moment of Binder's own career.
It was really starting to come down. I said, close your script, we're just going to ad-lib and we're going to improvise. And I'm amazed how easy it was. I mean, it flowed.
Indeed, they threw out the book that contained camera cues and cuts. They improvised, following Diana Ross's experienced lead on song selection. Little did any of the technical people know that it too would become an evening that has served as a highlight to their own careers.
Phones, electronic equipment, etc., the lighting. Not only did it become instantly a real danger zone for the lives of all the people standing next to that equipment or even physically touching it. You know, the orchestra is a perfect example of Joe Gersio had put together this wonderful full orchestra of musicians. The microphones started shorting out, and we were having lightning storms happening above as well. As a result, we had one microphone that worked the whole way through, thank goodness, and it was the piano, the keyboard, and the drums. And I'm not sure, we probably had 4 or 5 microphones on the drum kit itself. I think it ended up with one microphone left for the drums. And other than that, you couldn't hear the brass, you couldn't hear the other instruments, percussion and so forth in the orchestra. So Diana was really limited to how many songs of the big band arrangements could she sing.
Task your people to deliver their very best for a worldwide audience and take them to the brink, fueled only by adrenaline, generated by the fact that about a half of the 800,000 people were still hanging around, sharing the moment. That's a type A personality, or more realistically, a whole bunch of them. There's ego there, but people who want to achieve and push themselves are attracted to that environment, and they're willing to stretch to deliver something extraordinary. Binder marveled at what the entire team behind the event accomplished.
We weren't sure whether we could get the satellite up again the next day to broadcast around the world. We weren't sure if the Park Commission would even give us permission, or all the different people involved in this concert. And everybody rallied and said, "Heck yes, we're coming back tomorrow. We'll be there. We'll make it happen." My crew stayed up the entire night and had no sleep for 2 days. They worked on the equipment, and the next morning it was bright and sunshiny, and we arrived at the park to start off with a press conference. Everything was basically ready to go. So miracles do happen.
It's clear from listening to the commentary that Binder knows leadership, and his commentary actually speaks volumes to the success he has had. If the event had looked good on the surface but had been a total disaster behind the scenes, I just can't imagine that they could have paid him enough to do this commentary. And rather, we learn that since 1983, he and Ross have collaborated on all sorts of projects. With regard to how Ross handled herself that night, all I hear in his voice is sincerity and respect.
In Diana's case, they love her so much that when she goes out there, it's just total admiration. And if she says to calm down, trust me, they calm down.
It's real calm on this side, so I figured they could do it too. See, there's no police pushing on this side. Stand up straight. Just stand up, put your hands in the air. Everybody, come on.
She's controlling that crowd and the crowd's listening to her. It's hard to get 25 people in a room and get them to pay attention sometimes, or 5 people. And here she's dealing with 1 million people or close to it. And she's talking to them one-on-one, and they're listening to her and reacting and doing exactly as she is asking them to do for their own safety and protection. The real reason that Diana holds the moniker of being a superstar, if ever it's evident in this concert, and those moments when she's just out there controlling the audience and talking to them.
It took me a lifetime to get here. I'm not going anywhere.
Beyond guiding the audience to a safe landing of sorts that night, Binder also reflected on Ross's leadership of her staffs over the years.
You know, congratulations go out to every single person who had a part in the making of this concert. And really spectacular. Spectacular work, spectacular enthusiasm, energy. And it all flows through one lady. I mean, she's the one who motivates you. The reason I love working with Diana Ross so much is that if you're on her staff, I don't care if you hold the cue cards or if you pull cable or whatever your job may be, she gives you the feeling that you are the best. And that's a great talent to be able to project that and make people work 100% for you. I've always said in all my interviews, because the first thing they throw at you is this kind of, well, she's a diva and she must be difficult to work with. And I always say, no. As a matter of fact, I think of all the stars I've ever worked with, she's the one I think I most look forward to working with on the next project because she's so much fun. She puts everything she has into entertaining her audience.
You heard Steve Binder touch on all the extensive crew that was assembled to work on this project. Who are they and where are they now, I wondered? Did they share Binder's enthusiasm for the collegiality, for the risk? So in our second installment about this concert, we're going to hear from entertainment writer Dustin Fitzharris. Fitzharris has conducted extensive research on the concert. He's interviewed some of those very people who helped make it such a magical and memorable and safe evening. And he's arrived at some conclusions about how this event fits into the timeline of entertainment and American social history. There is much to be learned and celebrated from becoming more educated on this important, though rather unknown, obscure event. That's why the DVD and Binder's commentary represents the first building block to understanding and seeing what happened. In 1983, an African-American woman who had pioneered her own place in American music held court in an iconic American location. New York was on the upswing, but still pretty gritty, worn, and in need of some TLC. Long before walk-through metal detectors and cops in military-style riot gear, 800,000 people of all colors and ages peacefully filed into the park, enjoyed the event, and left. For so many reasons, this will never happen again. That fact alone makes this incredible viewing. Audio clips from this installment of Advanced TV Herstory come from the Shout Factory DVD, which contains the rained-out concert of the 21st and the full dry concert performed on the 22nd. It also includes the Steve Binder commentary. Thanks for listening to this installment. It's been a real pleasure to elevate this story to your attention. It's worthy of so much more, so please share it with your friends. And if you have memories of the concert or attended it, oh my goodness, please send them along via email to advancedtvherstory@gmail.com or post them as a comment at iTunes or my hosting site, Libsyn, Libsyn. Follow the podcast on Twitter. Our handle is @TVHerstory. And whether it's leadership or tales of courage, I can bring TV Herstory to life for your organization, training, or conference. Shoot me a line and let's figure out how to customize a session that fits your event goals. At my website, CynthiaBemisAbrams.com, you'll find this script and those from past shows. You've been a terrific audience, and I'm glad we've both stayed dry throughout. Thanks for listening. I'm your host, Cynthia Bemis Abrams.